Hello, it's a wonderful morning coming to you from our studios on Kairaba Avenue. This is QTV. I am Ibrahim Abalde. Some people call me the VJ, and if you can call me the VJ, I accept that as well.
Are you not Ibrahim Asuri Balde?
Cherno Ibrahim Asuri Balde. But I'm trying to save you.
You're trying to save time.
You know, from calling all those names. But just call me Ibrahim Abalde or the VJ.
VJ is fine.
Absolutely. And today, I mean, as usual, we have Mr. Ade Drame.
Well, I don't know about as usual. I'm not usually your host on a Wednesday, but I am today. And I'm pleased to be here as a co-host.
Well, it's good to have you here. Yes. I believe at the end of the program, it will be very interactive.
Oh,
and, you know.
I have no doubt.
Yes, and you know, I think our viewers will also enjoy the conversations because we are about to delve into different topics today.
We are indeed. So what are these topics?
Yes, we would be doing the newspaper review. From there, then we will be talking to the National Human Rights Commission on the polarization of the white paper, and we'll be talking to Aminata LBCC, investigation officer at the National Human Rights Commission.
Sure.
Yeah, so it will be a little bit interesting here.
But we'll also have a football.
Exactly.
Angle.
So we will be phoning in Aliou Cisse, who will be updating us. But I think Mr. Ade will also lead that conversation.
I can indeed, yes.
Yes, exactly.
The tourism minister from Saudi Arabia is here. And amongst other things, he's here to canvass support for their bid to host the 2034 World Cup. Yeah.
Well, so I mean, it will be very interesting to hear how is Gambia going to support, how is Gambia going to come in, what is going to be our position, you know. Yes, so our African proverb reads, never mind if your nose is ugly, as long as you can breathe through it. Never mind.
I saw it, I smiled. It says Gambia again.
Gambia.
I think all the ones this week have been
from the Gambia,
attributed to the Gambia. It's an interesting one because I guess it's a case of if something works and it does what it's supposed to do, looks are not important. You know, it doesn't matter what it looks like. Does it do the job? It's like, you know, you hear people saying, oh, I don't like your car. It looks this, it's ugly, it's not as pretty as mine. And, you know, the answer to that is, well, it gets me from A to B and back to A. Why do I care what it looks like? You know, so, yeah, if the nose is ugly, as long as it does the job, which is to breathe, hey, who's to knock it, eh? Who's to complain?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a very interesting one there. I mean, as far as you can breathe through it, it's telling you, as far as it's doing its function. You know, I mean, why complain about the outside?
What it looks
let
like.
us filter this down to the way we live as human beings.
Sure,
I mean, you know, there are people that, you know, fine, they might be very beneficial to the public. You know, maybe in another way, they might not be attractive or some, you know, or you might not portray them in another way. But as far as they are beneficial and they are really doing what they are supposed to do, well, who cares what they do?
They're doing their job,
yes.
You know, and as long as they're doing their job well, that is what matters, not how they look like, how they sound like, or those kind of extra stuff. And it's kind of related to the one we had yesterday, which said, you know, don't judge a book by the cover. So yeah, a similar one to this one. Really.
Well, I realized, you know, Mr. Ade, before.
Has Don Williams been in touch yet to give his take on the problem?
Well, Don Williams, if you are just watching from Farafenni, well, I mean, we want you to send in your comment. It's very important here. Yeah. It tells me, you know, before when I was when I'm about to buy a vehicle, I look at the body condition. You know, and I made a couple of mistakes when I look at the body, when the body is good, without even, you know, checking the engine well. You know, there was a time I learned a great deal. You know, I bought one car. At some point, the engine wasn't good. You know, and that car really drained me. It killed me. Almost every week, I'm at the mechanic shop. You know, but now I don't care. As far as the body is bad, the engine is good, I am fine.
I have only once bought a car simply because of its looks. And that happened to be the last vehicle I had before I left England to come to the Gambia. And it was this beautiful red MG Rover, 4-seater. And I was driving by and I saw it in the showroom. And I thought, oh, I must stop and find out how much this is. And I can tell you, the day I bought it, 3 times people stop me. First time was when I stopped at a petrol station to fill up. One guy said, "Can I take a picture of your car? It's so beautiful." I thought, oh, that was really odd. And then another guy came along and said, "Oh, can I take a picture next to the vehicle, please? I was like, on the same day, the very day I bought it." And so, you know, I used to get lots and lots of comments about it. So I guess I was right in buying it, but it was also quite practical. And the reason it was a 4-seater is because, you know, big family. I was always picking my aunties up from the airport every time. I was like their unofficial taxi driver. So it had a function as well, but it looked great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think most of the time we make mistakes, but I've learned a lot now when it comes to choosing the type of car I want to get. I mean, I have to make sure, even if the body doesn't look good, the body is fine, but I mean, the engine needs to be there. It needs to be healthy.
The engine is the thing. You know, what's under the hood that counts.
Yeah. So I mean, it goes. I mean, it's not only, it goes beyond looks.
Sure.
Yeah. It's telling you, you have to go deep. You know, it's similar to the one we treated yesterday.
Well, indeed,
sort of.
yes.
Yeah.
So I like this one again. You know, again, it says it's from Gambia. I'm not sure from which tribe in the Gambia. Is it a Fula one? No.
Well, this looks like a Wolof program. Yes. So, Mr. Ade, I think we'll take a short break.
Sure.
And after the break, then we will delve into some of the
news stories
we have. We'll be right back.
The art of juggling is a true spectacle of agility, coordination, and speed. A symbol of progression, precision, and mastery. "5G speed is like having the juggler in your pocket.
Amazing.
With lightning-fast download and upload speeds, you'll easily be able to juggle even the busiest workdays. Whether you're a busy entrepreneur, a creative, or just someone who wants to stay connected, juggle your tasks with ease with QCell 5G speed. The future is here. It's fast, reliable, and efficient. First brought to you by QCell. We innovate, others follow.
We are back, and this is QTV This Morning. I am Ibrahima Balde. We are back again. Mr. Ade, let's talk about the tourist season. I mean, you know, I've not seen, is there anything happening?
I'm glad you mentioned it. I mean, I know we've got a feature later on regarding football, but there's a tourism link because the tourism minister from Saudi Arabia is currently in the Gambia, as we mentioned at the top of the show. But also the World Travel Market is about to take place in London. We will be there. One of our colleagues will be going, and we'll be covering stories from there. And I have to say that over the last 20 or so years or more, since the 1990s, I've always attended the Gambia stand there, and they've always put on a really good stand. And in fact, every time I've gone there accredited to cover it, I've always gone under the Gambia Tourism Board, funny enough, never under Sierra Leone or any other country. And Gambia always has a good presence. I remember the first minister I encountered there as a tourism minister was Susan Wafa Ogu. Some people may remember her. She was tourism minister, very active when we had the Roots Festival and so on. So she would always go there, and she would always speak at the event. So I know Gambia is going to be there again. So you're asking, the tourism season is upon us. Unfortunately, the rains are still with us. And that is putting some people off, because a cousin of mine said to me, "Can you send me pictures of what it looks like today?" They're thinking of coming next week. So I'm wondering whether I should Photoshop the picture and send a picture of a sunny beach or something instead of the reality, which is outside, which is muddy and rainy and not very nice. But yeah, the season is upon us. We did a story where we went and we spoke to people who in the tourism area, particularly Saudi-Gambia, and they gave us their expectations of the upcoming season and what they would like to see. Obviously, ourselves and other countries, we're recovering from COVID-19 when nobody could travel anywhere for well over a year. And that impacted countries like us, countries like, coastal Senegal, Cabo Verde, very, very much felt the impact of that. But it's been slowly picking up. However, I have some inside information. Somebody told me that the last tourism season, they were quite disappointed that a lot of the people who came back didn't stay in the hotels. They tended to stay with families they had met previously on their visits to the Gambia, and so the hotels ended up losing out. And so you had people who had unofficial guest houses. They weren't registered as guest houses. They weren't paying taxes as guest houses. And yet effectively they were acting as guest houses. So that's something that needs to be looked at, because it's impacting on people who, that is their business, that is the sector that they are in. Yeah. So those are some of the things.
Yeah, but that, I think, Mr. Ade, that would be very difficult to...
It's almost impossible, I know.
Yes, to handle.
To police,
because that's a personal stuff between people. Sometimes I tend to think in the Gambia, we have more hotels, more guest houses than the tourists that are coming in this country.
Yeah.
There are seasons that, there are hotels that don't even have
any guests.
And still we are building a lot of hotels, a lot of guest houses for tourists.
I think we're building them in expectation that we will change and improve. And for me, I think if I have to be honest, the one disappointment I have is that I always felt that COVID gave us time to stop and reflect. And that reflection included, okay, what is it we need to offer to tourists to make them come here rather than go somewhere else? Is it just beach, sand, whatever? Sierra Leone has that, Cape Verde has that, Senegal has that. What's different? What's unique? And I didn't get the sense that we utilized that pause that COVID gave us, even though we said we did, but I don't see the evidence of it, to change the offer that we're making to our tourists to say, come here rather than go somewhere else. And I'll give you a very shocking statistic. 15 years ago, Gambia used to get more tourists than Cape Verde. Now, Cape Verde get 5 or 6 times more tourists than the Gambia. Why?
Well, for Cape Verde, the last time I checked, they are now working on getting 1 million tourists.
This is it.
Cape Verde. Yeah. In fact, the number of tourists that come into Cape Verde is more than the population.
Yeah, 890,000 tourists they got, before COVID.
Yeah, so just look at that. I mean, over the years, and all these tourists are hungry to visit Cape Verde, to visit the Gambia.
And why? What is it that Cape Verde has done to make them over 15 years have that change? And you go there and you will see, they built hotels, as you said, but they've also advertised aggressively. If you're in UK and you read the Daily Mail, or you go on the Daily Mail website, the Daily Mail website in England is the most viewed website in England, full stop. No other news outlet, BBC, ITV channel, none of them come even close to half the numbers that the Daily Mail gets. And you know why that is important? On the Daily Mail, every month you will read an article about Cape Verde. They obviously pay for it.
Well, they are paying, yes.
They're paying for it.
So I think the problem that we have, we need to be aggressive with our marketing, like you mentioned. Yeah. And at the same time, we need to offer things that other countries did not offer. But now that's the problem. What are we going to offer that other countries didn't offer? Fine, Senegal have sandy beaches. We have the sun. Cape Verde they also have sandy beaches.
But Cape Verde also, they sell their culture, the music, the arts. There's a very vibrant theater scene in Cape Verde. And you go to the islands, they can even get tourists interested in some of the dances like Funana and Batucada. And those are some of the things that, people see, they say, oh, I'd like to try that.
Yes, we'll come back to, that conversation again. I'm told Aliou Cisse is on the line. But cool. We have a story that we are to play, the visit of the Saudi delegate to the Gambia, which is very significant.
Special envoy.
Yes, exactly. So we will be looking at that video, then we will talk to Aliou. We'll be back.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Thank you very much.
You okay?
Thank you.
I'm good. I'm great.
President Barrow is making a brief return to Banjul from his village of Mankamankunda, where he is spending his annual leave, to receive the Saudi Tourism Minister, Ahmed bin Akil Al-Khatib, who was on a brief visit to the Gambia as a special envoy of His Majesty, King Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud. Speaking to reporters shortly after the closed-door meeting, the Saudi Tourism Minister revealed that his discussion with President Barrow centered on areas of cooperation between the two countries, as he expressed thanks and appreciation to the Gambia. The Gulf nation is seeking the Gambia's support to host the 2034 World Cup. It is also hosting a Saudi Africa Leaders Summit next month, which the envoys hopes President Barrow will attend.
Here with the high Saudi delegation as an envoy of His Majesty, the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz, to meet with the President of Gambia and discuss areas of collaboration, whether in the development, where the Saudi Fund for Development have been funding and financing projects here in Gambia for many, many years. And we will, under the direction of the President, discuss and explore more projects. We also discuss the social investment tourism relationship. We thank and appreciate Gambia to support Saudi Arabia to host Expo 2030, and also the Gambian Football Federation to support Saudi Arabia to host the FIFA World Cup 2034. I'm very happy to be here, and this is a visit. We look forward to host the President and the delegation from Gambia next month in Riyadh, a part of the African Saudi Arabia Leadership Summit in Riyadh. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Saudi Arabia and the Gambia already share strong and long-standing bilateral ties. Saudi Arabia had and continues to be a strong and consistent development ally to the Gambia. And through the Saudi Fund for Development is one of the largest financiers of the OIC infrastructure projects for the Gambia's hosting of the OIC.
Yes, I mean, interesting out there. You know, I was just looking at their scarf.
Okay.
You know, they were like, those that are with the minister, they were all wearing red scarf except the head of the delegation. He was wearing white. So I think that's form of a communication there. Look at them. You can see everybody is in red except that guy.
The red checker.
Yeah, so we have Aliou Cisse on the line. Aliou, good morning. Good morning, Aliou Cisse.
Well, if Aliou can't hear us, I'll give some quick background. You know, this is, I think, the second time that Saudi Arabia are intending to host the World Cup. 2034 is the bid. It had been rumored that they were planning to do so, but on the 5th of this month, October, they formally announced that they were actually intending to bid. And what's interesting is they are so far the only country that has officially announced that it is going to bid. Other countries have announced, and what's interesting also regarding Saudi Arabia is that the Gambia might find itself in a bit of a difficulty, and that difficulty will arise because China is also intending to bid to host, and of course the Gambia is a friend.
Considering the relation between Gambia and China.
This is it. And these are two countries that have done lots of development and developmental projects here in the Gambia. And they're both bidding amongst the ones they're bidding. The bidding also includes Australia and New Zealand as a joint bid. That will be something that, again, you know, I don't think Gambia will have any qualms, but I think the big difficulty will be between, do we go with Saudi or do we go with China?
With China, exactly. Yeah, so we have Aliou on the line.
Aliou, welcome.
Yes, Aliou, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bale and Mr.
Well, we've seen the Saudi delegates visited the president, and their intention is for Gambia at least to, you know, add some of
support when it comes to vote.
Exactly, sure. So that they can host the World Cup in 2034. Sure. Please, can you tell us about this visit, because you interacted with them?
Thank you very much, Bande. Like you said, I mean, this special envoy from the Majesty of Saudi Arabia is on a show. I mean, a couple of days ago, he was in Senegal, where he met President Macky Sall as well, you know, all part of their efforts to buy both, like Mr. Arif pushed it. I mean, Saudi Arabia is bidding to host the World Cup with the 2034. Already we know. I mean, the United States, Canada, and Mexico jointly is hosting the next World Cup 2026. And of course, 2030 we have in Morocco. I mean, Portugal and Spain also jointly hosting the World Cup in 2030. So Saudi Arabia, as a country that, I mean, many couple of years ago wasn't well known as far as football is concerned, has really been very influential recently. We have seen most of these iconic players are all playing in the Saudi Pro League. I mean, the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo and Neymar. I mean, Sadio Mane. I mean, you name them. They are all now, playing in the Saudi League. And then that shows that, I mean, football or sports is no more just a pleasure, it's a business. And that's why we have seen the Saudi government is investing billions of dollars into football and other sports as well. So I think this part of the efforts just to ensure that, the Gambia also gives them the support. So I mean, Saudi Arabia is able to host the World Cup in 2034. Yeah. But also, I mean, many will be doubting whether Saudi can host the World Cup. I would say yes, in terms of finance, I mean, they are well placed to host the World Cup. But also, like you said, we have other bidders as well as far as the World Cup is concerned. I mean, countries that are also capable of hosting the World Cup. But I mean, if you go back to 2022, I mean, we saw Qatar bid to host the World Cup. Was something that was many had their doubts as to whether Qatar was capable of hosting the World Cup. And for me, if you ask me, I will tell you, I mean, I think they hosted one of the best World Cups that we have ever seen. I mean, in 2016, for example, I was in Doha, Qatar, where I visited most of these stadiums. And when you spoke to so many people, they were doubting whether Qatar would be able to host the World Cup. I mean, some people were trying to cite the issue of human rights violations here and there. I mean, just to ensure Qatar is not able to host the World Cup. But then we know Qatar won the World Cup under the then President Blatter, and then they have been able to host one of the best World Cups. Yes. Saudi Arabia is the same. I mean, they have the finance and there's that political will to ensure they also host one of the best World Cups, as they now want to place themselves among the big countries as far as football and sports is concerned. Well,
I mean, for Saudi to be able to host the World Cup, that we need to rule it out, because we know they would be able to host it, because financially we all know their financial muscle is very strong. But now other countries too are vying for votes. Countries like China. Mr. Ade mentioned it. And considering the relation between the Gambia and China, Aliu, what do you think?
That's going to be very interesting. I mean, just yesterday, I mean, I was thinking about it. I mean, knowing, how international relations work. I mean, Gambia has a very tight relation with China. I mean, China is funding so many projects in the country, of course, including the OIC. And, back after the Russian bridges. But Saudi also, I mean, through the Saudi Fund for Development, is also investing hugely in the country as far as, I mean, our OIC projects are concerned. So it's really going to be very interesting on whose side the Gambia will lean as far as the Gambia Football Federation is concerned. So it is something that we really have to wait and see.
Yes, I mean, generally it's the Football Federation that has to cast the vote.
Exactly.
Are you aware of meetings planned? There must be meetings planned between this delegation and our Football Federation. Do you know when that is happening?
Not really, because the delegation had left yesterday. I mean,
okay.
It was just a brief visit to the Uganda just to meet the president. Obviously,
right.
I mean, when you meet the president, who is head of state, I mean, he will also have a huge influence on the Football Federation.
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, it's about the interest of the country that you look at. So certainly, I mean, the government through the Ministry of Youth and Sports will also have a say as to, I mean, which country the Football Federation will vote for in terms of hosting the World Cup. But like I said, I mean, this is just a brief visit. I'm sure there will be other visits as well. I mean, so as we get closer to the actual process of identifying who's going to host the 2034 World Cup. And aside from that as well, I mean, the Saudi envoy, I mean, also, I mean, use the visit also to, of course, invite the president to the next month. I mean, Saudi Arabia,
Africa
Leaders Summit. I mean, to be hosted next month in Riyadh, and they are hoping the president will be there. I mean, we have seen so many, summits. I mean, the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit, China Africa Leaders Summit, Turkey Africa Leaders Summit, and now Saudi Arabia is also hosting this Saudi Arabia Africa Leaders Summit. I mean, it just shows you, I mean, how much, I mean, Africa is important to most of these global powers. And then I think in a nutshell, if you look at it, it's at the interest of Africa to now decide, I mean, who they side with as far as the development of their countries are concerned. But it's specifically going to be interesting, Mr. Ade, as far as, I mean, the World Cup bid for 2034 is concerned. Because China and Saudi Arabia, they have a big influence on Africa.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Ali, thank you for talking to us. Despite your busy schedule, you are, on the show.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Mr. Ade and Mr. Malik.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and I was just going to say very quickly, some countries have already committed to say that they're going to vote with Saudi in support of their bid. Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Panama, all in Central America, the Philippines, Nepal, and several Arab nations have already said that they will
They'll be voting for Saudi.
And if we have to be honest, Saudi will face a lot of opposition in the West. Already, Western countries and Western media are talking about Saudi Arabia's human rights record. So, it's always a big thing. Oh, well, there'll be no alcohol. How could we live? How could we survive for a whole month without alcohol? And so that's been one of the things that people are saying, oh, the Saudis won't. But they've said that if they do get the bid, in fact, FIFA would insist on that, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of the rules that will
and
be,
it's a bigger football country than Qatar. In terms of football, it's far bigger, and infrastructure, they already have it.
Well, if Qatar can host it, what about Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, of course. I mean, much bigger country, much richer.
Yes, exactly. Unless we go and somehow spend our oil money there. Exactly. So, Mr. Ade, we're talking about the tourism sector. I mean, we need to revive some of the things. I mean, the other time I was discussing with a guy from the Gambia Tourism Board. I said to him, look, I mean, my friend, we are struggling to get tourists to come to the Gambia because tourists have nothing to see in this country anymore. I mean, we were talking, I always highlight the issue of Abuko Nature Reserve. I mean, if you go to Zimbabwe, you see animals, you see lions.
Go to Kenya, the same.
You see good animals. I mean, if you go to Abuko, you don't see anything. All that you see is empty cages. I mean, we cannot live like that as a country.
It's true. Although in many of the countries that you've mentioned, they're moving away from displaying caged animals anyway. So you see them out in the semi-wild.
You will be in
safari.
a truck.
You'll be in a car.
In a very
protected vehicle.
Exactly.
And you'll see lions and such like. We don't have the space for that. So, the Abuko Nature Reserve that you're talking about, yes, it's been allowed to kind of die, really. Which is a shame because it was one place where people could go and they could observe. But there are other things that we could do. The kind of heritage tourism that came with Alex Haley's book Roots. As we were pulling back from hyping that up, because almost everybody who was enslaved in the Americas came from the West. 90% of them came from the west coast of Africa. So they have roots here, maybe not in the Gambia, but in Ghana, Sierra Leone, and so on. And look how well Gambia did with the year of return in 2019. That caught many people by surprise. They're like, oh, why didn't we think of it? Because 400 years, 1619, when the first enslaved Africans were landed on American soil, and so these 100, 400 years later, come back to the motherland. And it proved to be hugely successful financially and otherwise for Ghana. We haven't done that, and we haven't hyped up that enough. It's been allowed to kind of fade, and maybe that's the kind of heritage tourism that needs to be done, because many people, when they do their DNA test, it shows that they come from the Saudi-Gambia area, people who are African Americans. Well, tap into those people, say, come back and see where your roots are, where your origins are. So there are many things we can do.
Well,
that
there was a guy who came, like he was on the show a few months back. He's an African American. Well, he said I was born in the U.S. and I did all my life there, you know. But he said my friend encouraged me to come to Gambia. Right. You know, when he returned to the Gambia, and he was like, "Look, I've seen people in this country that looks like me, so I believe I am from the Gambia. In fact, looking at me, you'll know I'm a Fula because the way I look. I mean, so it's like it's good to be home." He said people out there should come back here and invest.
Well, this is it, and you know, and it's good because nowadays we don't need anymore to encourage and educate our African American brethren and sistren. A lot of them know that they came from this part of Africa. Years ago, before she was corrected about it, you know, you had people like Tina Turner saying that she felt she was a Zulu, whatever. Well, nobody from South Africa was taken to the Americas, so there's an impossibility that your roots were in Zululand. You know, just total nonsense. You know, but like I said, you know, many of them will find when they come, they say, "Oh, these people look like us."
But Ms. Ade, you know, sometimes I wonder, if you are Mandinka and they sent, your ancestor was taken to America for slavery. At some point, you lost your that Mandinka-hood, that
intermarriage and so on. But when you do DNA, as my older brother did DNA, it actually will find all the various bits that it won't. There's no way anybody now in America will be 100% Mandinka. Almost impossibility. The only places where you would find people who are kind of 70, 80, 90% of would be, for example, if you went to a place called Bahia in Brazil, Salvador de Bahia, those people, they look pure Yoruba, and when they do their DNA, it's like 18, 90% Yoruba. It's the most unmixed part of Brazil, Salvador de Bahia. People look pure African. They even have African food, clothing, the lot. You know, they go around with T-shirt that says, you know, it says 90% Brazilian, 100% African. You know, so, but there are very few places like that. In the Americas, certainly North America, they've been intermarriage and you know, et cetera, et cetera. So, but the traces will still be there, and you can pinpoint where the majority of your DNA is a fantastic tool, and it's become very, very popular now. And they have these big shows on American TV. A guy called Henry Louis Gates, professor, he does one of those shows. It's one of the most watched shows in America.
Yeah, I watch.
And they reveal to you, you know, the composition of your DNA.
I watch how they do this DNA analysis and the likes. Thank you, Mr. Ade. We'll take a short break. After the break, then we will talk to Aminata LBCC, Investigation Officer, National Human Rights Commission, on the polarization of the white paper. It will be important, and stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break.
Go, da full network suda tili QCell. Ni lafta diamla wati jamala mune diata QCell. Most reliable network dumala geta wati QCell. Wo quality man nyon soda jam pana manke QCell. Ani be wulo ni farole kono walante be bako na jala fayola network ko se taria QCell sunyu boss. Nyo finjeka indi 3G new delu taxi 4G plus, and now we bring you 5G. 5G. First and only 5G provider. Itella follow adi doron nesa keno. Gambia bela nyon tawo fele QCell. Ko fasunta buka busi QCell. Itella multi milka kukutol nati Gambia. QCell made lori la kiliano yele imanyina amanda wala itella ka quality dila dadi ma itelle silo wala wodol mume be keno ma. QCell sunyu boss. QCell sunyu boss. QCell sunyu boss. QCell sunyu boss. Connection of Bambandi QCell. Sunyu boss. QCell most innovative QCell. Sunyu boss.
are back, and this is QTV This Morning. If you're just tuning in, gone halfway the program now.
Already?
Yes, already. And let's talk to the National Human Rights Commission on the polarization of the white paper, and we have Aminata LBC, investigation officer from that institution. So, Aminata, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Balde.
Yes. Please take us through, this polarization and how important is this, please?
Okay. As you all know, during the TRRC hearings and investigations, there was public interest in the whole TRRC process. So after 2 years of operations, the TRRC submitted their report to the government. So after submitting the report, the government also provided a white paper in relation to that report. The white paper was provided after 6 months of TRRC submission of the report. So after the, in the TRRC report, it is recommended there that the National Human Rights Commission is the natural body to oversee the implementation of the TRRC recommendations. And the Gambia government, through its white paper for the TRRC, also accepted that recommendation of the TRRC. So therefore, National Human Rights Commission is tasked by the state to monitor the implementation of the TRRC recommendations. And this, the Commission believes, can't be done by the Commission alone. And therefore, we need partnership and collaboration. Then the Commission goes further to start a series of activities. One among them was a caravan, nationwide caravan, to popularize both the TRRC report and also the government-wide paper. Then we come up with the popularization session that was concluded last week. This time we targeted all the regions, and we also targeted the local authorities, that is the village development committee members, the alikalus, and also ward councillors, women groups, youths, and also people living with disabilities, and also civil society organizations. Because we believe by engaging more people and sensitizing them about the government-wide paper, they'll be able to understand its content, because not everybody is literate, and therefore it's important we target people at the grassroots. So that is one of the objectives of this activity. Then the second part of it is also to manage public expectations, because we all know during the TRRC hearings and investigations, the public followed keenly, and there were various issues that were highlighted, some very emotional. And then after the submission of the report and also the provision of the white paper, quite a lot is also expected from the government and its stakeholders. So it's important that as a Human Rights Commission mandated to monitor this very important process, we engage the people in the grassroots so that they'll be able to understand the steps that have been taken by the government so far, and also the steps taken by National Human Rights Commission and its partners, and also to help them better understand that, that the implementation of some of the recommendations will be done gradually, and then that will also enable them to go back to their the people that they represent at the councils or at their organizations. In that way, I think all of us will be at the same level in terms of our expectations and also understanding of the content of the white paper.
Wow. Well, I think well, it is detailed there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So now, what are the thematic areas that the popularization campaign is focusing on, and as you know, the content of the TRRC report, the government-wide paper, why? So we want to know.
Okay. You know, as I told you earlier, during the caravan, because you know it has different thematic areas, so we divided, the caravan captured other areas, then during the popularization we also focus on other areas. And then if you allow me to just go through this one, just to, yeah, so that I'll be able to give you a detail, this thing. One of the areas of focus during the popularization was the TRRC report on the junglers, the unlawful killings, torture, and other human rights violations. This actually, the presentation was done by a representative from the Ministry of Justice, because I'll come back to that later. Then the other topic was also the sexual and gender-based violence, because we all know that was also prevalent as per the investigations of the TRRC. And then we also look at the Presidential Alternative Treatment Program and the witch hunt exercise, because a lot of victims from these two programs also gave their testimonies before the TRRC. We also talked to the participants about the West African migrants and enforced disappearances. And then we also talk about institutional hearings, the National Intelligence Agency, SIS now, previously called NIA, and also report on the justice sector reform. These were few among the topics that were discussed. But also another important topic that was discussed during the presentation is attack on the media and freedom of expression, and attack on political opponents. So these were few among the topics that were covered during the popularization.
All right, before Mr. Ade comes there, how long do you intend to roll out this? And what section of the society have you reached so far?
Okay, as I told you, we are rolling out series of programs. The first was a caravan where we targeted mostly the youths, and also we targeted cosmopolitan areas like Tanje, the coastal area like Farafenye, and those places we targeted the markets where we have a mix of group of people. But we also targeted the young people through the caravan, and that is why we went with civil society organizations, and then we were also using a PA system, and also we have a jingle on the TRRC that we were also playing to also attract public attention. So this other, the concluded popularization, that one, as I told you earlier, we targeted representatives at the council level, that is our ward councillors, women groups, village development committee members, the alcalos, and also people living with disabilities. So these were the target audience during the popularization program. We intend to continue rolling out similar programs to enable us to reach more people in the communities. Yeah, so that is the target of the commission.
Right. Yeah, thanks, Aminata. You mentioned junglers, and you said you'd come back to that. But also, I like one of the things you said about managing expectations, because that's something that I've been trumpeting, having gone through a similar process in Sierra Leone. But once you've done all this activity, will you be feeding back to government, saying, you know, we've done this popularization, these are the things that we found, this is what, and there is a publication, I guess, at the end of it, they're saying this is what we found and this is the feedback we've got. Particularly, as you said, people had certain very high expectations, particularly because government in its white paper said we accept almost all the recommendations of the TRRC. So in terms of feeding back, once you've done this process of popularization, what happens next?
Okay, what we do is, because we organize this in partnership with our various stakeholders, that is the victim support organizations and also the Gambia government through the Ministry of Justice. So usually when we implement activities with partners, after the implementation of the activity, when we write the report, we also share the report with all the partners, including the government. So they'll be aware. Then if they go through the report, they will know the key highlights. And from there, we take it up. But also, as I told you, the National Human Rights Commission is tasked to monitor the implementation of the TRRC. And this the Commission accepted wholeheartedly. And we also have the committee in that effort also formed a committee called the Multi-Stakeholders Committee on the monitoring of the TRRC implementation. And then in that committee, you also have a representative of the government in key areas, like the Ministry of Justice is in that committee. You also have the Gambia Police Force in that committee, Gambia Armed Forces in that committee, and I think you understand the reason why these people are also part of the committee, because there are some recommendations that touch on their areas. We also have people from the civil society, like victim-led organizations like Anikate, WAVE, WILL, and others. Also the Gambia, a lot of organizations that the Commission is working with closely in terms of monitoring the implementation of the recommendations. And also the Commission is mandated to provide an annual report to the National Assembly with regards to the status of implementation of the TRRC recommendation. And this the Commission has done this year. We tracked the records from May 2020 to May 2023 and wrote a report to the National and presented it to the National Assembly. But before presented, it was actually validated by stakeholders, wherein the inputs were also incorporated and the final copy submitted to the National Assembly.
In terms of what's been done so far by the NHRC, if you had to pick 1, 2, or 3 things that people chose as the most important to be addressed, what would those things be?
Actually, during the popularization, key among the topics that people feel should be addressed immediately, one was reparations.
Right.
That was highlighted in almost all the regions. Another thing that was highlighted was also institutional reform in terms of building the capacity of our security personnel, particularly the army and the police, on areas of human rights. And this is something that the Commission has been doing well before the comment of the TRRC report. But of course, hence we are also tasked to do that. We will continue in that endeavor. And the Commission, in that process, even before the provision of the TRRC report, also in collaboration with Gambia Police Force, produced a document called Code of Conduct for the Gambia Police Force. This document was also popularized within the police. We conducted a training of trainers workshop for this in all the regions, and we also targeted trainers from the police training school, also trainers from other security agencies who were also taken through this very important document because it's a very human rights friendly document. We also provided another important document known as the guidance on policing public assemblies. So this that document also we roll it out to the police. We also train them on it. It helped them to better coordinate and provide security during demonstrations or other forms of public assemblies.
Exactly.
So I think
so now I would still like you to tell us, I mean, what is the state of the implementation of the white paper?
Actually, that's an interesting question. So far, I think there are some issues that have been addressed. It has been implemented, though some moderately in some areas, and in some areas in fast-paced. But actually, gradually, they are implementing the recommendations.
So do we have the confidence that, should we say, okay, we'll have the confidence now, it will be implemented accordingly?
Yes, I think yes. I think there is that political will, and then we've also seen commitment from not only the government but from civil society organizations, especially the victim-led organizations. We've seen a lot of commitment from them, and they also, the multi-stakeholder committee that the Commission also hosts is also playing a key role in ensuring that the government is reminded of its obligation to implement the TRRC report. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm interested in that, Mr. Ali.
He's interested in it, but also, yes, the National Human Rights Commission is monitoring. What people tend to think is that, okay, so what if government doesn't stick to the commitments that is given in the white paper? What can the National Human Rights Commission do, if anything?
Okay, the Commission, as you may know, is mandated to promote and protect human rights in the Gambia. And the implementation of the TRRC recommendations also form part of human rights issues. And therefore, the Commission will continue to remind the government of its obligation to protect and promote human rights, and also to implement the recommendations of the TRRC. This we will continue to do, because they've been adhering to our requests, and we believe we will continue doing that to ensure that they implement all the recommendations of the TRRC as expected of them.
Well, I'm just afraid the National Human Rights Commission, it's a body set aside by the National Assembly. I mean, to monitor, you know, and look into other human rights activities in the country.
Across the board.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, how often do you engage these people, the National Assembly? How often do you update them? How often do you follow up? Because sometimes you need to follow up so that certain things be implemented.
Okay. As I stated earlier, the National Human Rights Commission, as per the Act, we are mandated to be providing annual report to the National Assembly. And this we have been doing. And then also we engage them on different thematic issues. Just 2 months ago and also a month ago, 2 different sessions were held with the National Assembly regarding some pending bills at the Parliament. And then the activities were very successful because they were done in the form of a retreat where we got the participation of a large number of parliamentarians. And they've also shown commitment to ensure that human rights are protected and promoted in the Gambia.
Is there a select committee? I mean,
yes, the National Assembly Select Committee on Human Rights and Constitutional Matters. Yeah, that is a committee that we work closely with in most of our activities that we do with the National Assembly.
And that's a cross-party select committee. It's not just members from one party.
Yes. It's a multi-party committee.
Well, I think we've, exhausted all what we have here. So now, Aminata, thank you very much for coming on the program.
If I can ask just one question, it's a general question.
Thank you.
Based on what you've seen going around the country, do you get a sense of optimism that people have taken on the message, that you've tried to manage their expectations and so on? What's the sense you get from people's expectations?
Yeah, I think the popularization taught us a lot of lessons as a commission, but also because we tend to understand a lot of them in day one of the presentations we are not very interested, especially at the beginning. But as presentations go further, as we progress into the presentations, a lot of them have shown interest. In fact, we also have other participants who were not actually part of the designated 40 participants, but they saw interest and that they wanted to and they requested to join the workshop, and we allowed them to join, and that happened in almost all the regions. So that showed the level of interest that people have in terms of the TRRC recommendations. And then a lot of them have also requested that we should be going to their communities, that is at village levels. In that way, they believe we'll be able to talk to more people to help them understand the white paper of the TRRC. But just to conclude also that I will leave this report with you here. This is a National Human Rights Commission report to the National Assembly on the status of the implementation of the government white paper on the TRRC recommendations. So this I will give this QTV to keep in your archives.
For the viewers, can they download this from your website?
Yes, this can be downloaded in our website as well, www.nhrc.gm.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
www.gm-nhrc.org.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Aminata LBC for coming on the program. We appreciate. Viewers, well, Mr. Are, this is all we have.
We're finished already?
Yes. Until we come your way again tomorrow, inshallah. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Thank you.